Okay, hello. Hello everyone. Good morning. How's your day? This is again your teacher for today. I'm back at Teacher Shelly for today's lesson for our Maritime English. Right? So, we are now on our week 33rd, day 1. So, to begin with, I hope since today is Monday, our start for the day, so it's lesson time. And we have to learn something that is again very important for our day-to-day life on board. Okay, for everyone, of course, for the crew members of the ship. Okay, so when we say about maritime fire drill presentation, okay, so fire drill is one of the most important day-to-day practice that should be memorized, or that should be in our heart for our safety. Okay, so to begin with, for our lesson, alright, this is all about fire drill presentation. Okay, so when we say introduction and foundation, okay, this will be our part 1. So, how to have an effective fire drills. Okay, enhancing maritime safety and preparedness. Okay, so this comprehensive guide that I'm gonna discuss about is designed for all the crew members on board to improve, okay, their understanding and their participation in fire drills. Okay, on board, we're talking about on board the vessel. So, here's an example of a suit or a thing to wear during fire drill. Okay, so we have here the helmet, we have there the mask, okay, the gauge, the tank gauge, your suit. Okay, so as we go on, there's always a why. Okay, why the urgency of fire at sea to be taken. Okay, why do we have to know about fire drill, okay, on board? Okay, so fire at sea is a unique, okay, and a severe threat, right? So meaning fire at sea is an extremely dangerous, alright? So, and it's a severe threat for several key reasons, okay, which I can summarize it into 3 points. Okay, now 1 is what we meant by isolation from help. Okay, since just think of like when we are on land, we are on land. Okay, now unlike a ship at sea, okay, they are completely on its own. Okay, now when you're at sea, there are no fire departments. No rescuers to call for immediate help. Right? Because you're on your own. You're sailing. Now, the crew must rely purely on their own training. Like, before going on board, you do your basic training. You do your advanced firefighting training. Right? So, the other equipments you use during the training and the resources to fight the fire. Okay? All those, if you're at sea, you do it on your own. Right? On the spot, you do it on your own. So, this means that the initial response is very critical. Okay? Now, as a small fire can quickly grow out of control with no external assistance, like the fire department that we call in or on if we are on land, right? So, the second point here why fire at sea is unique is that the spaces, the confined and the complex spaces the ships are built are small, right? Like the enclosed spaces like the engine room, your cabins, the cargo holds, that are only connected by ventilation system and the narrow passages. So this layout makes it very difficult to contain a fire, right? And it prevents the crew members from moving freely to fight the fire. So there's the smoke, the smoke, the toxin, the toxic fumes. It can quickly fill in the entire vessel, making really it hard to breathe and see the blocking routes, or the passageways. And the third point here why the fire at sea is unique is that there are abundant fuel sources. Now, imagine that the ship is full of things that can be burned here. This is made of steel, right? The vessel. So, we paint this one, or you paint this one. So, simply, this is already the material used to paint the vessel is easily burned, right? There is a fuel, okay? The source of power of the vessel. So, there are flammable cargoes, okay? There are lubricants, okay? So, the presence of those materials can cause fire to spread rapidly. So, it becomes more intense. So, increasing the risk of explosion. So, the release of these gases, toxic gases, the dark fumes here, right, or the smoke, are really dangerous. So these factors, okay, these factors together create a scenario where a fire can quickly become a catastrophe or a terrible disaster, right? Or a huge, a big, there's a sudden event that causes this fire, destruction, or loss sometimes of life. So you're putting the entire crew and the vessel at risk. That is why fire at sea is unique and it is a severe threat to the crew and to the vessel itself. Okay? So, the solace or the safety of life at sea and together with the International Safety Management Code regulates a rule or a mandate. Okay? Meaning that solace, this is what we call this an international rule book. Okay? This SOLAS sets the minimum safety standards for ships. Yes. And I'm sure everyone know about the Titanic disaster, right? I'm sure, you know, everyone knows this. So, when that happens, okay, the Titanic disaster, SOLAS, okay, created this rule to make sure that the tragedy won't happen again. Alright? So, what does this SOLAS and ISM does? Okay, for number 1, it specifies what ships must have. Okay? Like, it covers everything from how the ships are built to what safety equipment they must carry, like the lifeboats, what type of lifeboats, what type of fire alarms, and life jackets. Okay? That is number 1. What SOLAS and ISM does. Number 2, it makes sure that the crew is ready to go on board. Okay? So, meaning that it requires SOLAS and ISM requires regular drills and trainings for the crew so that they will know exactly what to do in case of emergency. Okay? So, third rule of the SOLAS and ISM. It applies now to many ships. Okay? So, like most large ships, no? That travel on international voyages should follow these rules of SOLAS and ISM. Regardless of which country they are from. Okay? Now, this ISM, okay, this ISM or the International Standard Management code is a global, okay? This is a global set of rules that ships and companies, mining companies, operates them must follow to make sure that safety and to prevent pollution. Imagine, imagine this kind of smoke, okay? It pollutes, of course, the environment. That is why ISM set a global rule. Not just for the ships only, but as well as the mining companies. Okay? So, we're done with SOLAS and ISM. Okay, let's proceed with the 4 pillars of an effective drill. Okay, the 4 pillars. So, when we say pillars, the steps, okay? Like steps. So, an effective fire drill, okay, is essential. Okay, there's an essential step by step to make sure everyone, every crew members knows exactly what to do in real emergency cases. Okay? So, like for the example, we have the first step. It's the preparation. Next, of course, if you prepare, you execute, you do. Okay? And the very important is the communication. That's the third step or pillar. And lastly, the debriefing and improvement. Okay. As we go on, I will discuss one by one the 4 pillars. Okay. Let's go to the first one, the planning and preparation. As mentioned here, that this is the before the drill stage. Before we do the drill stage, the actual. Excuse me. So, it means everyone, every crew members know the plan. Okay, that is the first step. You must have a clear plan for the drill. Meaning, this includes defining the goals, figuring out the scenario you will practice. Like, for example, a scenario, there's an engine room fire. So what are you going to do for that, with that, during emergency? And of course, when you're planning, you have to make sure everyone knows their role and where they need to go, right? So, here, for example, there's an engine room fire drill scenario as mentioned. The officer, okay, should define what is our goal here. What are we going to do if there's an engine room fire? Okay? So, of course, you have to plan. This is, we're talking about we're talking about the fire drill, only. So, what are you going to do during engine room fire? You have to plan. Okay? So that each and everyone on board will know where to go. Right? And what to do. Okay. Next, The second step is the execution and response. Meaning of execution, this is already during the drill stage. So, what are you going to do here? It's about putting the plan into action. Okay, so you will do something na here. So, meaning, when the alarm sounds, okay, for example, everyone must respond exactly as they would do in real fire. Okay? So, this means you have to move quickly and seriously to your assigned stations. Each and every one should have assigned stations. Carrying out your duties without delay or confusion, of course. You know already where to go. Each and every one on board. So for example, in a car ship, you're 22 crews on board. So each and every one of the 22 crew should have their own assigned stations. And you know where to go. Okay? So, that is how we respond to the execution. That is during the drill. You have to put it into action. Now, next. So, the third step is this one. The evaluation and the briefing. Or what we call sometimes the communication stage. This is the right after the drill stage. Okay. Now, before I'll go here, communication. This is immediately after the drill. Okay? After the drill. So, you need to review. Okay? You need to review. You have to discuss. This is already after the drill. Okay? Now, you have to discuss what went well and what didn't. Okay? So, this involved discussion among the crew to identify any mistakes, like such as slow response. Okay? The communication issues. So, you can fix. Okay? You can improve what went wrong during the fire drill. Like for example, one is laughing. So, it should not be that way. Because you're doing a real life situation. So, are we going to laugh if we are already having an emergency situation on board? Of course, we are not going to laugh. We're going to be serious. Right? So, if somebody or if the senior officer happens to see someone is laughing during the fire drill, the senior officer should call the attention of that specific crew who is not performing his duty. Okay? That is one of the reason why you need to discuss in order for everyone to identify the mistakes. Okay? So, the last is continuous improvement, or sometimes we call it the briefing and execution. This is what's next stage. It's about making sure the team gets better over time. Okay? So based on your evaluation, you must make changes to your plan and training. If someone commit mistakes here, you will make sure the team gets better over time. Okay? You make changes to your plan and training to make sure that the next drill is even better and the crew is constantly improving their skills and their readiness for the actual emergency situation. Okay? So, here, yes, this one. You have to have a report of what happened. Okay? After the discussion. Alright. So, our goal, what is our goal for this presentation? Our goal, our aim. Okay. Of course, as mentioned, we have to make sure that every crew member understands and can effectively participate in fire drills. Actively participate. Serious in their duties. Okay. Because we have to move from simply going through the motions to actually prepared for a real life fire at sea. Okay? Now, by the end of the preparation, the action, the communication, and the debriefing, okay, you should know why, number one, fire drills are important on a ship. Okay? Next reason is that you should know the key steps to a successful drill. Alright? From planning to the end step, the review. And now, thirdly, what we should know is that for our goal in this presentation is that your specific role and responsibilities in an emergency situation. Okay? Now, ultimately, our goal is to build a more confident, okay, prepared, and a safer crew on board. Alright? That is our goal for our fire drill. Again, our goal is to build more confident, preparedness, and a safe crew on board. Alright. So, for our part 2, we are now in the preparation. Okay. The groundwork. Okay. So, the master list or becomes our action plan. So, we will discuss about your role, your duty. Okay? Your role, your duty. And in marine fire drill, okay, master list is a simple but very important action plan for the entire crew. Okay? Now, just think of it as a detailed emergency checklist that tells every single person or crew on the ship exactly what they need to do. Okay? And where they need to go when the fire alarm sounds. Okay? That is what a master list means. This is an action plan for the entire crew member. Okay? Again, this is a detailed emergency checklist. This one is an example of a master list that should be posted on a ship's bulkhead. This is a checklist that tells every person, every crew, what exactly they need to do and where they need to go when the fire alarm sounds. Okay. This master list, tells everyone. As I said, tells specific role and responsibility in an emergency. For example, the third officer might be assigned to a firefighting team, and the second officer as the rescue team, or the chief officer is near the watertight doors. Alright? So, each and every one should have a responsibility. Okay? During emergency cases. That is what a master list tells us. Okay? So, the location, is exactly where your designated master station is. Because master station is the safe place where everyone go to meet the team and get your instructions. Okay? Now, for about the signals. Okay. There are different emergency signals, no? Like a series of short blasts followed by a long blast, so that you will know what kind of emergency is happening. Like for the fire, there's a specific signals for that. For abandoning the ship, okay, example for that, there is a specific signal. So, in short, this master list, it eliminates confusion, no? It eliminates confusion, and it makes sure that everyone knows their part, their assignments. So to refrain from a more chaotic situation, okay, and to make it more organized if there is a master list. Alright? So, are we still catching up with the lesson? Alright. So, for next slide is, defining the scenario. Alright. It says here that a fire drill is a simulation, not a walk through. Okay. In marine fire drill, simulation means you are creating a realistic practice scenario. Okay? A scenario of a fire on ship without using a real fire. You're just creating a realistic, almost close to real situation. That is what simulation means. Okay. So, instead of a real blaze, okay, simulation uses tools and techniques. Okay? Tools like the fire hose, okay, fire extinguishers, alright. So, there are techniques for that to make the drill feel as close to a real emergency as possible. Okay? And this allows the crew to practice their skills and procedures, of course, in a safe and controlled manner. Okay? Okay? And in a repeatable environment. So, defining the scenario, meaning deciding what the imaginary emergency will be, instead of just sounding the alarm and then the officer in charge creates a specific and then pretend situation for the crew to respond. Okay, you simply decide what the imaginary emergency will be. That is what defining the scenario means. Like for example, no, there's an engine room fire. Okay, there's an engine room fire, or there's a galley fire with a casualty, and there's a smoke in the accommodation area. So what are you going to do with that? That's why we practice fire drill and we do a simulation. We use tools. Okay. Now, why is it important to have a scenario? As mentioned, like for example, there's an engine room fire. Of course, number one reason for that is it makes the drill realistic. It makes the drill real. Okay? Now, for engine room fire, example, we can focus on a specific problem here. The crew has to react as they would in real emergency. You will react. So what are you going to do? If there's an engine room fire, are you going to laugh? Are we going to just talk with each other? No. You have to react in a real emergency, which is much more effective, okay, than a general unplanned drill. Alright? You have to make it realistic. The drill, the drill. Now, next, it tests the second important reason why do we have to make a scenario. It tests specific skills. Okay? Now, like for example, a fire in the galley. Okay? For specific, for a test for specific skills. Like for example, there's a fire in the galley. That requires what? A different response than a fire in the engine room. Okay? It's different. Okay. Now, also, in a specific skills, in defining the scenario, it allows the crew to practice and test their specific procedures and skills. Right? Using what? A specialized firefighting equipment. Right? And then, the third reason why defining the scenario is important is that it highlights our weaknesses. Okay? You can easily plan who has weak spots. Like for example, you will know what are the lacking equipment in a certain area, or who is confused. Alright? Who is confused for their specific task. That's why defining the scenario is important. Okay? Can you still follow? Okay. Now, here in the image showing two split scenario. The reason why I put X here is that during emergency cases, are we going to smile? Of course not, right? Are we just gonna walk? Of course not. It's emergency. So, the seriousness of this crew is right. And the gesture of running is a gesture that he is participating well in or during fire drill compared to this crew that he's just smiling, he's just walking. No, it should not be. Okay? He is lax, walk through. Okay? Now, so for our equipment, okay, equipment readiness during pre-drill checks. Now, we're going to question ourselves. Is our gear ready for the fight? Alright? So, are we ready? Now, the equipment readiness, okay, pre-drill checks means you must inspect, okay? You must check or inspect and then prepare all the firefighting gear before the drill even starts. Alright? Because this is a critical step to ensure every piece of equipment is working correctly. So that the drill is realistic and safe. Okay? Now, why is the equipment readiness during pre-drill important? Okay, number one, of course, it checks the problem. Okay? You look for issues like a kink on a fire hose, okay? There's a broken nozzle, or the breathing mask tank has a low air, okay? Secondly, why equipment readiness is important during pre-drill? It ensures safety. That's the main reason why we are doing a fire drill, for the safety. You make sure the equipment is safe to use. And of course, that you won't fail during a simulated emergency. which could lead, of course, to an actual accident. And the third important reason for the equipment readiness during pre-drill checks is that it builds confidence. Of course, knowing that all your gear is in perfect working condition. Of course, to help the crew feel more confident and prepared for a real fire situation. So, in short, the process of making sure your tools are ready to do their job, and so you can do yours effectively. Ourselves, right? Okay, that's the reasons. Okay. Yes, these are all the different pre-drill checks. The gauge, the hose, and the suit, the fire drill suit. Okay? Here, the pre-drill, okay, you check the pressure gauge on the fire extinguisher and the unrolling of the hose of this screw and the outfit, fireman's outfit. They should be always ready in a locker. Okay. So, here, the fireman's outfit. Okay. As shown here, this is the fireman's outfit. Donning the fireman's outfit step by step. How are we going to wear this one? Okay. So, the process of putting the fireman's outfit, step-by-step procedure, will be discussed to ensure that the crew member is fully protected and ready to enter the dangerous and smoky or hot environment. Yes, this is the first step. Suit up. Okay, putting on the fire jacket here and the trousers first. Okay? The jacket and the trousers. You just think of this as putting on your full body armor. You make sure that the zippers and the buttons are fastened so that no part of your skin is exposed to fire or to danger. Alright? You suit up. Okay, next step. Wear the SCBA, meaning the self-contained breathing apparatus. Okay, this is the SCBA, the self-contained breathing apparatus. I'm sorry. Okay, this one, the self-breathing apparatus. You have to put on this one to secure the straps. Okay? Then, you have to put on your face mask. Of course, to provide this one provides you with a clean, breathable air. in a smoky or toxic area. Okay. Here, you have to put on the helmet and the gloves. This is the helmet and this is the gloves. Okay? So, your hands now are the last parts to be protected. Okay. And then you have to put on your helmet and the visor down to your forehead to protect your face, of course. And then this one, the gloves. Now, by following the steps I mentioned, you build your protection from the body outwards. Of course, with breathing gear as the most critical piece, no, to ensure you can survive in a fire environment. Okay? Next. This SCBA, or the self-contained breathing apparatus, they called it the lifeline. Okay? They called it the lifeline. Why? Because it simply means, okay, this SCBA, okay, this is a piece of equipment that gives you clean air to breathe when you are in a smoky or toxic environment. This one gives you a clean air. Could you just imagine? You are in this situation. So how can you breathe? This is dark. So if you happen to inhale this one, you may pass out. Right? So you have to wear this one. Okay? Putting this one properly should be strapped to your body. Okay? So, this gives you a clean air to breathe when you are in this situation. Think of this as your portable air tank to fight fire. Now, why is SCBA called a lifeline on a ship? Why? Okay, number one I mentioned is that it gives breathable air. It gives a clean air. A fire here on a ship creates thick, right? Black smoke and toxic fumes that can kill you in minutes. This one I mentioned gives clean air. Next, why SCBA called a lifeline? Because it protects you from harm. Without this, you cannot enter a smoke-filled room. This is your only protection against carbon monoxide and poisonous gases. And lastly, why this is called the lifeline on the ship is that it is your most critical tool during fire at sea that truly separates a safe firefighter from someone who cannot enter a dangerous area. It literally keeps you alive. That is why it is called the lifeline on a ship. Okay? Lifeline on a ship. Okay. This is the SCBA, the gauge, air cylinder, face mask, and the water pressure gauge. Okay? This is the SCBA here. This is the pressure gauge and the tank. This is the mask. Okay? Next. Alright. Let's talk about fire extinguishers. The first line of defense. The other one, the SCBA, is the lifeline. While fire extinguishers are the first line of defense. Why is it called first line of defense? Simply because it is the tool used to attack fire when it is still small and still manageable. Okay? Now, think of it as your first and fastest response to fire. Okay? Now, so why is it called the first line of defense? Okay, let's discuss it. The speed. Because first reason why it is called the first line of defense, because of the speed. You can grab it right away because it is portable. Right? It's portable. You can grab it right away. It's just nearby. It can be used in seconds to try and to put out the fire while it is still small. Okay? Now, next, why they are the first line of defense? Of course, to prevent catastrophe. Okay? To prevent a terrible situation. Meaning of catastrophe. So, the goal here is to stop a small fire from becoming huge and to become not to become uncontrolled. That requires a full-scale emergency response, okay, from the crew. So, of course, it endangers the entire ship. Okay? So, that is the second reason why it is called the first line of defense, the speed. The next one is that you can right away prevent from spreading a terrible disaster, no? And the specific job for that is there are different types of fire extinguishers, no? For specific types of fire. Now, as we go on, these are the different types of fire extinguisher. Okay. So, the first type is the water type fire extinguisher. This is coded with red, solid red. Okay? Normally, okay, water type of fire extinguisher is used on Class A. What are those? These are paper, wood, okay, coal, cardboard, and other solid fuel fires. Textiles, okay? You use water type of fire extinguisher with red color code. The second one, the foam type of fire extinguisher. This is used on solid fuel fires such as flammable liquids. What are those? The paint, the oil, and the petroleum, source of power of the vessel. And the color code for this is cream. Alright? The third type is powder. This is used on any kind of fire except for class F, which is the cooking oils. So, powder type of fire extinguisher is used for paper, textiles, wood, coal, cardboard, flammable liquids like petroleum, oil, paint, okay, and class C, which are flammable gases, which includes butane and methane, and class D, flammable metals like potassium, uranium, and electrical. When we say electrical class of fire, we all know that we have appliances in the kitchen. Rice cookers, microwave ovens, grillers. We have also computers, our laptops, our cell phones. In case of emergency, we use powder type of fire extinguisher coded with blue. The fourth type of fire extinguisher, the CO2 or the carbon dioxide, coded black, can be used with flammable liquids, okay, flammable liquids, and what else? Electrical. And the last, the wet chemical fire extinguisher. This is mostly placed in the kitchen, in the galley, because this is used for class A and F type class of fire. F for cooking oils includes the cheap pan fryers and deep fat fryers. Alright? So, each fire extinguisher has their own purpose. Each has different uses in classes of fire. Alright. So, here, a more bigger, a more clearer image for that. Powder, coded blue. For class A, B, C, D, electrical fire. A, paper, textiles, wood. B, petroleum, oil, and paint. C. Flammable butane or methane. D. Kitchen appliances, computers, and cell phones. For electrical, For D, flammable metals, uranium and potassium. Next. Phone type. Coded cream. For class A and B, fire. Again, class A, paper, textiles, wood, and other cardboards or similar materials. Class B, flammable liquids like petroleum, oil, and paint. Next, for water type of fire extinguisher, coded red. Class A only. Paper, textiles, wood, cardboard, and other similar materials. Carbon dioxide or CO2 type of fire extinguisher. Class B. And electrical. Class B, petrol, oil, and paint. Electrical, we have kitchen appliances, computers, cell phones. Okay? Next. The wet chemical fire extinguisher, coded yellow. For class A and F, fire. Class A, paper, textiles, wood, cardboard, and similar materials. For the F, cooking oils, cheap pan fires, deep fat fryers, normally placed in the galley, in the kitchen. Alright? Okay. So, we have fixed systems. For the fire extinguishers, they are handy. Right? So, we have also fixed systems to put on fire, to put off the fire. We have here sprinklers, which this one is the last resort. This is our last remedy. Okay? So, this is a sprinkler. This is called fixed system. Okay? So, when we say automatic and fixed firefighting systems, this is already a critical layer of defense. Okay? And this one is built into the ship's structure. And this one. Okay? Unlike the portable that I mentioned earlier, the fire extinguishers that a person has to grab it and use it, then these systems are permanently installed. Okay? And they are designed to automatically or manually release a fire suppressing agent to control or to extinguish the fire in, of course, a specific area. Okay? So, these automatic systems they are designed also to detect fire. Of course, to activate their own. And the reason why they are called the last resort, okay? Because when a fire is too large already, so it's too dangerous for the crew to fight fire directly. This will automatically activate. So these are giant fire sprinklers for the whole room. Okay? When the fire is detected by this and this one through a sensor, okay, or through a smoke detectors or heat detectors, the system automatically releases an agent, like for example a water mist or a foam or somewhat an inert gas, to stop or to suppress the fire. Okay? Now this one, okay, and this one, they are often used in accommodation areas like in your cabins, and most especially in machinery areas, in the engine room. Alright? So, this one, the reason why they are called the fixed systems, because they are permanently built and can be activated by the crew sometimes. Usually from a safe location outside the protected space. Now this one is remote controlled, okay, firefighting system for the entire room. Like for the high risk areas, the engine room or in the cargo holds. Okay? This is connected by a network of pipes and nozzles. And the crew can manually release the agent from the control panel to flood the area and smother the fire. Okay? So, this one, it is labeled as do not activate without orders, because this system is extremely dangerous, okay, and should never be used on a WIIL. So in short, this kind of system is that you must wait for a direct command from a senior officer, like your captain, as a designated firefighting leader, before touching this lever. Because this is already your last resort. Of course, for a major fire, a huge fire. Okay? Because this one releases gas to displace the oxygen in a room in order to extinguish the fire. Okay? Now, activating this one without orders could be fatal. Okay? Because anyone still inside the protected space would not be able to breathe and could die. There should be a proper evacuation first of the area, okay, in an absolute and must before the system is activated. There should be no crew in the space, in the area. Okay? So, here, yes, during fire, sometimes there's a blackout. So, emergency lighting and escape routes should be lighted. Okay, should be present. Okay? So that everyone has a guide on board to safely figure out where to go. Like for this example, this lighting here. Once there is a total blackout on board, this one is the only thing you can see in the ship, right? So emergency lighting systems are backed up. Okay, and this one automatically there is an emergency lights. If ever the main power fails, they are crucial. Okay, because they ensure the visibility when there's a fire or there's an explosion or there's a total blackout. So there's an exit sign here where there's a markings here, your way out, the low location lighting, this one on the floor, markings on the floor, close to the door, close to the floor. Alright? Since smoke arises, okay, this lighting, low lighting location or the low location lighting is important and it remains visible, right? If a space is filled with smoke, people can, the crew can crawl to safety, so they will know where to go. Okay, the escape routes. Alright, so it should be clear, it should be unobstructed. There's a signage, right? This one. Okay, so if ever there is a medical attention needed, you have to be prepared. Not just like you're prepared during the fire, but sometimes there are injuries happen, there are casualties sometimes. So beyond that firefighting, you have to have a first aid casualty care. Okay? It isn't just about putting out a fire. It is also being ready to help people, to help the crew who might be hurt in real emergency cases. So in simple words, first aid is a part of the drill, right? So it's a part of the drill. This is the first aid kit. So there's a crew member that is often assigned the role of casualty. I think the second officer is the one in charge in here. Okay? This is critical part of the drill also, because saving lives is just as important as saving the ship. Okay? And there should be teamwork and communication. Okay? It teaches the crew members, no, how to work together to handle injured person. This is the stretcher. Okay? The crew member is practicing using the stretcher, highlighting the importance of casualty handling. Okay? So, they must communicate clearly, this one and this one. Okay? To get the person safe out of danger area, and you have to provide a medical help. So, this is just more than a fire hoses, no? So, it reminds everyone that a complete emergency response involves more than just firefighting equipment. Everyone also know where the first aid kits are, okay, and how to use them effectively. Okay? So we will not just focus purely on how to put out the fire, but also to provide medical attention, first aid attention. Okay? Now, we have here the transition to execution. Okay. This is all about the planning, from planning to execution. Okay? Now, this refers to a crucial process of turning a written fire drill plan into a real life, a hands-on exercise. No? So, it's the movement when the crew stops just reading about it, on what to do, and actually starts doing it. Okay? So, first is you have to read first. You have to study first. And then, next to that is you execute. You do the action. You have to start doing it. Again and again and again. So, in simple terms, it means planning is the blueprint. Alright? Planning is the blueprint. So, everything you do before the drill starts, okay, that is the planning. It includes, like mentioned, the master list, no? Knowing your specific roles, you have to understand the signals, and you memorize where the escape routes, no? Okay. So, the action is the execution. So, when we say planning, that is the blueprint. Now, when you say action, is the execution, how you are going to do the actual drill itself. So, here, when the alarm sounds, of course, the crew must immediately go to their effectively carry out all the steps. Then, memorize the planning phase. Okay? It includes the suiting up, donning the firefighting suit, you communicate with the team, okay, you go to your assigned locations or stations or assignments. Yeah, so this phase is also critical because it reveals whether the plan is effective in realistic scenario. So it tests the crew speed. Okay? Your communication skills here are tests. And of course, your overall readiness of the fire drill. in actual situations. So, that's all for our lesson, and we'll go to our Q&A. Alright. For our Q&A, number 1 is, what is the primary purpose of a muster list during a marine fire drill? So, the correct answer for this is letter B. Okay, to detail the specific emergency duties and stations for each crew member. So, meaning, as discussed earlier, the muster list is a document that assigns specific roles of each crew. Okay, and the stations to every person on board in case of emergency. Alright, and then next, during a fire drill, what is the significance of the low location lighting? Oh, and why is it placed near the deck? So remember, the lightings on the floor, alright, and near the doors, the exit doors. So what is the correct answer here? It's letter B. Because it provides, the LLL provides a clear, illuminated path to escape, routes, and exits, especially in smoke-filled conditions. Yes. Okay? So, next, for number 3, what is the correct procedure for a crew member to follow up upon hearing the ship's general emergency alarm? So, what are you going to do? First, you have to proceed immediately to your assigned muster station as per what is in the checklist or in the muster list. Alright? So, the first action is, of course, to report. Go directly to your assigned muster station to receive instructions, of course, and be counted for. Okay? So, for number 5, we have, which of the following is considered a critical part of a marine firefighting drill in addition to fighting the fire? So, what is considered a critical part? It's letter, the casualty handling and the first aid, because a complete emergency response includes not just putting out the fire but also making a first aid to the injured crew. Okay? That's for number 4. And now for 5, why is it important for crew members to practice using a stretcher during a fire drill? Of course, to ensure they can safely and effectively transport an injured person. That's the reason why you have to practice how to use a stretcher, because that is essential for safety. For safely and efficiently moving a casualty, okay, through the ship's narrow passages. You have to learn how to use that stretcher, alright, during emergency. Alright, for number 6. So, what is the purpose of the do not activate without orders? Alright, yes. Okay, why? That lever has a do not activate without orders warning on a fixed CO2 or carbon dioxide system activation lever. Why do you have to put this one? Okay, it's to prevent, yes, accidental or unauthorized activation, okay, which could be fatal to anyone in the protected space, okay, because the CO2 system, this one, it displaces oxygen, now making this CO2 dangerous for anyone inside the space. So, activation must be strictly controlled by the senior officer because you could die in minutes if you were able to inhale this one. Okay? That's why the reason that it should be activated only with orders from your senior officer. Okay? So, for number 7, why is it important for escape routes to be kept clear for all obstructions at all times? Of course, it should be to allow for a quick and unhindered escape. There should be no boxes in the alleyways. Alright? It should be free of obstruction. Okay? For everyone on board to escape during emergency. Okay? Number 8. Now, during a fire drill, what is the planning to action phase? Okay, during a fire drill, the phase is where crew members begin to put on their firefighting suits. Yes, that is the planning to action, and report to their stations according to their plan. Yes, this is the transition stage, the preparing, the studying of the plan, and then actually carrying out the assigned duties. Okay? For number 9. So what is the main reason for having different types of fire alarms? Of course, and signals on a vessel. Yes, to signal a specific type of emergency and the required response. So, as mentioned earlier, different signals like general alarm, the abandoning of the ship, or the fire alarm, they are used to prevent confusion. The signals, that's why there are different types of signals. Okay? From the crew and the passengers. So there will be no confusion. Like for example, if the signal of alarm, the alarm signal is for general alarms. That's different from the fire alarms. And it's also different from the abandoning the ship. Okay? To avoid confusion, okay, from the crew and the passengers. So for number 10, why are fire drills conducted regularly on a ship? Of course, to test the crew's knowledge and preparedness for a real emergency situation. So, here, regular drills ensure that the crew members are familiar with their duties, their routes, the equipment, and of course, so that they can respond quickly and effectively. Alright? So, next. Oh, alright. So, we're done with all our topic for today with regards to marine fire drills. Okay, so we can actually figure out that during emergency cases we have to be ready. All right, we have to be ready for the actual procedure. We have to have a planning. We have to have a execution, and then you have to be have the communication, and then lastly is the briefing. All right, so for now we will end up here, and then on Wednesday we will continue with the part 3 and part 4 for our lesson about marine fire drill. So I hope everyone had learned something from me, and for our next topic, there's more about marine fire drill that will be discussed, and also I will have a separate discussion purely on how to use the fire, different types of fire extinguishers. Okay, so for now I'll say goodbye to everyone, and I hope to see you all on Wednesday, and this is again your teacher for today. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I'll see you all on Wednesday. Okay, bye everyone.